On the guitar, most people can play only a few open chords up here at the top of the neck. But beyond this narrow range, there are many other chord shapes that are possible further up the fretboard using what are called bar chords and inversions. In fact, there are so many fingering options on the guitar that it can seem overwhelming. So in this video, you'll see exactly how bar chords are formed. We'll look at why you would use them in situations, and you'll learn which ones to use in a song based on how they're naturally organized. So by the end, you'll know how to play and really utilize bar chords anywhere on the fretboard. Now, most guitarists, especially beginners, tend to play the easier open chords up here at the top of the instrument because they include some open strings, so you don't have to press as many notes, like in these basic shapes, for example: C major, A major, G major, E, and D. Or in the minor versions of these chords, like A minor, E minor, and D minor, for example, which are all fairly simple to play. Starting out, you can get by with only a few basic chords like these, at least for a little while. In the comments, let me know which chords you personally learned first. But eventually, to expand your options, you do need to learn bar chords too, which are played by barring your finger, usually your index finger, across multiple strings at the same time, hence the name. Bar chords are physically more challenging because they require a little more dexterity and strength to play, but they're basically the same as the open chords, just played further up the strings. For example, to play this open E major chord made from notes E, G sharp, and B, all you have to do is press these three notes, E, G sharp, B, and then strum across all 6 strings. Since these open strings, E, B, and E, are already part of the chord, so the notes of the open strings are already taken care of. But to play, say, an F major chord, which is 1 fret higher, I need to bar my finger across the strings to include the correct notes of F, A, and C in this chord. These fingers press F, A, and C, while my index finger is stretched out to press this low F note, this high F note, and the C note all on the 1st fret. Now, instead of using a bar chord here, I could have pulled out a capo to press down these strings so my fingers could more easily focus on playing these notes here. However, if I wanted to move back and forth between, say, this open E major chord and this F major chord, then clamping a capo down would just get in the way. So to move freely between these chords, it's essential that you know how to play bar chords using your own organic capo. And what's cool is that all bar chords follow a simple and consistent pattern, where each is basically derived from one of 5 open chord shapes: C, A, G, E, and D. The open C major chord, for example, includes notes C, E, and G, played like this, where these notes, G and E, are open strings. Then sliding up a fret, the C sharp major chord uses the same shape, but with your index finger barring these top 2 strings, like this, to play notes C sharp, E sharp, and G sharp. And moving up the instrument 1 fret at a time are chords D major, D sharp major, E major, F major, etc. all played using the same basic open C shape, but as a series of bar chords. It's a fairly simple idea, actually, once you know how it works. And with the same process, you can use the other open chord shapes to play bar chords too. The open A chord, for example, includes notes A, C sharp, and E, with these 2 notes, A and E, strummed as open strings. And sliding up the frets, using this same basic shape, are chords A sharp major, B major, C major, C sharp major, etc. all played as bar chords. Likewise, this open G chord, notes G, B, D, serves as the essential shape for these bar chords: G sharp major, A sharp major, B, C, and so on. This open E shape, as you've seen, is the basis of bar chords F major, F sharp, G, G sharp, etc. And this open D major shape can also be played as D sharp major, E, F, F sharp major, etc., all the way up the fretboard. All 12 major chords can be played in the C shape, or alternatively, these same 12 chords can be played in an A shape, or in a G shape, or an E shape, or you can play the same chords in a D shape as well. We're talking about the same 12 chords here, but where each can be played in 5 different shapes, also known as inversions. C major, for example, made from notes C, E, and G, can be played in its open C shape, or using bar chords, you can play this same chord in its A shape, or its G shape, or in its E shape, or its D shape. In each case, it's the same 3 notes, but with different fingering. And the same is true for the C-sharp major chord, built from notes C-sharp, E-sharp, and G-sharp, as well as the D major chord, and so on for all chords. So while it can seem like a lot to learn at first glance, this big list of chords, we're really just looking at 5 basic chord shapes across the 12 keys. 5 shapes times 12 keys equals 60 chords. And what's awesome is that these same 5 shapes, C, A, G, E, and D, inform how to play other chords as well, like minor and diminished harmonies. For example, to play an E minor chord, you just take E major and lower its major 3rd note, G sharp, by 1 fret to play a G note instead. To go from E major, E, G sharp, B, to E minor, E, G, B. And using this same chord shape, you can play F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp minor, etc., rising up the fretboard. Likewise, to play an open A minor chord, you can start with the open A major shape, A, C sharp, E, and lower its major 3rd note, C sharp, to a minor 3rd, C, to get the more melancholy sound of A minor, A, C, E. And sliding up the fretboard 1 fret at a time, you can play the A sharp minor bar chord and the B minor bar chord, then C minor, and so on. So combined, these 5 minor chord shapes times 12 keys adds another 60 chords to the total. And following the same idea, you can play all 12 diminished chords in each of the 5 shapes to add another 60 on top of that for a total of 180 chords. And applying this same logic of bar chords to other harmonies, like 7th and extended chords, the count is even higher, resulting in a huge number of fingerings that are possible on the guitar. For PDFs with thousands of diagrams in all 12 keys, check out the link in the video notes. There you'll find virtually any chord possible to really master the fretboard. But with so many options, you might ask why all of these inversions are necessary in the first place. If various bar chords are redundant, then what's the point of learning how to play them? The answer is twofold. First, chord inversions are helpful because each one sounds slightly different, so you can adjust the sound and feel of a progression by using different chord shapes. For example, I could play chords C, G, A minor, and F like this to create a certain vibe. And then to build energy, I might slide my hand up a few frets to play these same chords like this. By shifting the progression up in this way, I can inject some additional motion, so it's more vibrant. That's one reason to use these bar chord inversions, and the second reason it's worth knowing these alternative shapes is to ease the movement between various chords in a progression. For example, let's say you have a pattern that includes A major, C sharp minor, D, and E. I could play it like this using mostly open chords. But this pattern requires my hand to move a lot. From A major to C sharp minor, my hand has to slide all the way up here. Then going to the D major chord, my hand has to drop down here before shifting to the E major chord over here. I can do it, but my hand is moving all over the place. So to streamline this movement, I can use some other inversions instead. Starting with this A major, I might play it as a bar chord in the E shape up here on the 5th fret. That way, my fingers have a shorter distance to travel over to the C sharp minor chord. Then from here, I can go to the D major chord in its A shape and then keep the same A shape, rising up a couple of frets to play E major before shifting back to this A major bar chord to repeat the pattern. By using these bar chords instead, my hand maintains a tighter range of motion for a smoother sound. It's nice. So together, these are the two main reasons that bar chords and inversions are so useful. One, because they allow you to refine the sound of a song, and two, because they help you play progressions more efficiently. But with so many inversions possible, how do you know which ones to use in a given situation? It can seem hard to know. The answer to this, though, is one of the most powerful tricks you will ever learn on the guitar, so check this out. There is no hard rule for which inversions to use in a progression. Ultimately, it's up to you, but I'll show you a good rule of thumb that definitely helps. To illustrate, let's take the last progression we looked at, A, C sharp minor, D, and E. As you saw, we can play it in different ways, like this, or other chord inversions are possible as well. But the general idea is to use chord shapes that really minimize your hand movement as you play. And it turns out there's a special pattern you can follow to figure this out, which is based on the way the chords in a key are laid out. To show you what I mean, the chords in our sample progression here, A, C sharp minor, D, and E, they all come from the key of A, which includes 7 chords. A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished. Together, these harmonies sound compatible because they're all derived from the same underlying scale, which in this case is the A major scale. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, where each chord is made by combining every other note in groups of 3 to form 7 distinct harmonies. On the fretboard, when you plot the notes of this scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp, and then combine every other note, these 7 chords are formed, where each can be played, as you've seen, in 5 different shapes rising up the fretboard. A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished. And what's awesome is that these various shapes form 5 different sets of hand positions on the guitar, where each set or group of chords shifts incrementally up the fretboard, making it easy to move between them in songs. The first set in this example is here at the bottom of the fretboard, where the A major chord is in its open A position. And grouped around this open A are the other 6 chords in this key, including this B minor bar chord in its minor A shape, which is close to the C sharp minor chord, this D major chord in its open D shape, then this E major chord in its open E shape, along with F sharp minor in its barred minor E shape, and this G sharp diminished chord in its open G shape. Together, these particular inversions form a compatible set, positioned in close proximity for your fingers to move swiftly from one to the next. And rising up the fretboard, 4 additional sets are formed, naturally grouping all of the other inversions in this key in the same way. This A major chord in a barred G shape is near B minor in a G shape, which is close to the C sharp minor chord in an A shape, which neighbors these other chords in their respective inversions within this second set. And rising further still, every inversion of a chord is naturally aligned with the others in a key like this, where 5 sets are formed in total. And once you get a feel for this pattern, you can swiftly move between the chords in a key no matter where you are on the instrument, because their relative positions are logical and predictable. Not only in the key of A, but also in any key, where the harmonies in the key of A sharp also form 5 compatible sets following the same logic, as do the chords in the key of B and C sharp, etc., across all 12 keys. Because all keys in music are consistent, the same patterns apply, making it easy to move between chords anywhere on the guitar. This, in a nutshell, is how bar chords and inversions are formed, why they're so useful, and how you can really use them in your music. And for diagrams of all of these inversion sets, along with thousands of other chord charts and illustrations that help you crack the code to music theory for you to play yourself, check out the PDF chord book bundle for guitar. The link is in the video notes. So thank you for watching. Please let the algorithm know if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.